State will face Jordy Ball here for the first time this season. And Jordy Ball's numbers here this year, I mean, ranks tops in the country, 5th in the nation in shutouts, 6th in strikeouts, and 10th in the ERA.
What I love about Jordy Ball is she can beat you in so many different ways. She's going to come in around 67 to 70 miles per hour. She has her drop, her rise. She's going to sprinkle in that changeup just to keep all of these hitters honest. But ultimately, it's her demeanor on the mound. She's going to step on the box with a lot of swagger, and how intimidating that can be.
All right, so first up is Megan Ricks in the leadoff spot. She was one of 4 players here for Penn State that has a couple of hits, or had a couple of hits in that first round against Iowa. And she fouls that off. What is the key in terms of trying to time off Jordy Ball?
You have to go into the box with a plan, because if you try to hit all of her pitches, that's when you're going to be exposed. You want to go into the box hunting on one speed in one pitch until you have 2 strikes, and then you ultimately have to defend yourself.
Easier said than done, right?
Absolutely.
And hit her. So one batter face, one batter on. Uncharacteristic hit by pitch. And so one base runner here for this Nebraska defense to suddenly pay attention to. Ava Breadwell, of course, a staple there behind home plate. Fascinating to me, the Sammy Bland third base story. Hadn't played third base her entire career, and there she is this year.
Just doing what the team asked her to do. She's worked so well alongside Ava Kuzak. Came in from Wisconsin, where she was a 2-time All-American. Between the two of them, that left side has a ton of range.
Addie Gordon squaring up. Well, this defense, too, has to be ready for that, right? If you don't have total confidence in swinging away against Jordy Ball, the small game, the short game might be an answer here today.
Coach Crowell prides this offense that they put up a lot of heavy numbers with their bats, but they really utilize this short game, especially early on, to get at least one across.
One ball, one strike.
And you mentioned Breadwell when we opened up. I saw her before the game. She was testing out the backstop, but also the dirt right in front of her, trying to read about how would a bunt react if they were able to get it down.
And Gordon puts it into play. There is Sammy Bland, who makes the play at third base. No problem. She's like an old vet over there now.
Right. For an outfielder, she's doing pretty well this season, transferring in. But I think that's one thing about this Nebraska defense is they have depth now at every position. We've seen Jordy Ball herself when she's not pitching at first base, at center field, or even left.
Well, Gordon is someone who kind of flip-flopped with Haley Brunson from the first round to today in that 2 and that 4 spot. Brooke Clausewitz, the DP, firmly stapled into this 3-hole in this lineup from yesterday to today for Penn State. And that gets away from Breadwell. Ricks coming over to third base. And so Penn State moving Megan Ricks around.
And right now, Jordy Ball is just releasing that rise ball a little bit late, but with her velocity, the way it just ricochets off the net. If you're Breadwell, that's why you practice. What type of give does this net give? You saw hers pop up firing right away.
So advancing on the wild pitch. Ground ball again, looking it back. And the out is made. And again, important there to keep Ricks back at third base.
That was a really interesting play. I almost felt like Bland had a ton of space to go directly at Ricks. You see she's far off the base, almost in the middle, ultimately decides to look her back and throw across the diamond.
And so 2 outs, but still a runner 60 feet away here for Penn State. As the cleanup hitter, now Haley Brunson, steps in.
That's one thing that Penn State did is they attacked early against Iowa. And in a tournament where you have to survive to move on, creating that momentum at the beginning is going to be so helpful.
Low Down in the dirt a little bit outside. 2-0 the count. Brunson was 1 for 4 in that first round against Iowa. Mentioned a Penn State offense that contributed 12 hits, generated 6 runs against the Hawkeyes. How's it back? A Hawkeye team, too, that had put up 35 wins here this year.
And they went 3-0 on Penn State a few weeks before. And I guess 4th time's the charm, you could say.
They always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times, let alone, 4 or 5 times. That might be the case once you get into the postseason. 2-1 the count now on Brunson. Drills it to left field. That gets in Ricks, and Penn State, just like that, has tagged Jordy Ball and Nebraska with the first run of the game.
Moving Brunson from 2 to 4 is exactly so she could be in situations like this. An RBI hitter going opposite field, hitting it on a line. Jordy Ball is going to supply you the power if you can just find that timing with your barrel.
Yeah, Clarissa Crowell and the head coach and this Penn State coaching staff looks brilliant in making that swap between the 2 and the 4 hitters.
And that run was a really big deal because last weekend, Jordy Ball won her 5th consecutive Big Ten Player of the Week because she went 2-0 with a clean 0 ERA.
Well, Jordy Ball's going to kick herself, though. The only reason why Ricks was on base was because she put her there, a hit by pitch, and the leadoff batter. And Penn State plates her to lead here 1-0. Michaela Barbonente, the second baseman, your next hitter up. That's 281 for the season.
You're seeing a bit uncharacteristic of Ball. She's getting behind early, so then she's having to really plate some of these pitches in hitter's advantage counts.
I wonder, just everybody's human, right? And you got to wonder if there's some, maybe not nerves, but just some added energy, right? I mean, Jordy Ball was injured last year, tore her ACL, so never got a chance to play for Nebraska in the Big Ten tournament, so literally making her debut of her career here today.
Not to mention, it's her first postseason game since the Women's College World Series back in 2023.
Right.
And as much of a competitor as she is, you have a different level of butterflies when you step on the mound on a postseason game.
Three balls, 1 strike to Barbonente. Goes right at Ball. Boy, Penn State is kidding to the Nebraska pitcher here early. And a 2-out single for Barbonente.
Barbonente continuing to stay hot. This ball is going to come on the inner half, but she is so quick on her turn, keeping her hands inside the barrel, shooting it back up the middle. This is a Penn State team that is chalked up on the back of the box. And so far, that has worked really well for them as they are not overwhelmed by the speed of Jordy Ball.
And so an early conference here for Nebraska. How do you kind of resettle in this moment? You've been a pitcher in the postseason. How do you kind of flip the switch?
You remind yourself that this is the first inning of the game, and there's a lot of game left. However, there's always going to be one big inning anytime you're a pitcher, but it's can you limit the damage in that inning and then go to work, especially for herself. She's a leadoff hitter. Reset. Focus on painting the corners and attacking the zone early. I'm sure that was just a quick little tidbit from the pitching coach.
Lori Sipple, the pitching coach, and Rhonda Ravel conversation, and so we're back at it. Natalie Lido is next up. I mean, Penn State has gone 6 deep here through the lineup in the first inning.
And this is a lower seed who is just coming into play. I love they watched the horse race derby before this tournament. One of the horses had a 9-1 odds. They said, we're going to be that sovereignty horse.
And I love it. Coaches, you know, they dig deep, right, to try to find any sort of motivation. Watch the Kentucky Derby. Get motivated by that.
And Coach Crowell's like, I want to show him the angle where you can see the mud, the dirt, the rain, the when you get gritty in the hardest moments.
Here's the 1-1 to Lido. well behind that pitch.
For ball, when she's able to get ahead early is when she could really tunnel in some of her pitches, but you just saw that off speed.
Jordy Ball will have a couple years left after her redshirt year last season. Looking to retire the Penn State side, high and outside. How well does Ball disguise that changeup?
Incredibly well, especially when it comes after the drop ball. They're coming in on the same level, 2/3 of the way there, and it's the last second that it just breaks.
Lito fouls it back and out of play. Good attendance here for our first game, first of 4 games here at Bittinger Stadium. A fan looking to be a good softball citizen and return the softball back to the proper parties. Nice look here at this facility. It is absolutely beautiful. Not only that, but like I said, knock on wood, I hope I don't jinx it, but beautiful weather here this week as well. The 2-2.
I think one thing that's important, we're seeing foul balls and not swings and misses by this Penn State team, and just establishing that early makes it a lot more difficult for a pitch caller, which is Rhonda Ravel in the dugout for Jordy.
I mean, she's thrown, what, 22 pitches already here in this inning. They're really making her work to open things up.
And the more times you see Ball, that's just going to make the end of this game really interesting if you can get through the order a 3rd and a 4th time.
Low and inside.
Lito is somebody who is credited so much for what she does defensively, but really starting to gain some confidence in these last few weeks as a freshman now in the box.
The full count struck her out, went high upstairs, and got her chasing. The first strikeout here for Jordy Ball today.
Jordy Ball, anytime she faced struggles, she comes back in a bigger way, throwing her best rise ball of today.
Here this year, all kinds of program records, runs scored, home runs, extra base hits. You gotta cross all your T's and dot your I's when you're going against this Nebraska offense. Ava Kusek, the transfer, batting above 400 here this year.
She is tied with Jordy Ball in home runs with 19. If you look at that, between the two of them, they have more than 83 Division I softball programs themselves as a team. She made a difference in the Wisconsin lineup, but boy, since she has come to Nebraska, we've seen her anywhere from the top to the middle of the order, but she's found her home in the 3 spots.
And Maddie Volpe got the start yesterday in the first round, and she did a lot of that against the Iowa Hawkeyes. 5 strikeouts, pitched 3 2/3 innings, only gave up a couple of hits to the Hawkeyes, and picked up win number 10 of the season.
That was her best outing we have seen all year, especially by efficiency, or attacking the first pitch strike. She's going to throw a rise chain screw towards the mid-60s, but it's going to be attacking the zone early. If she can continue that from last night, she'll be in good business.
And a first pitch strike to the leadoff hitter, Jordy Ball. As she comes into this at-bat, 19 home runs, 59 RBI. Can she get to that 60 mark and the 20 mark? Hard ground ball that's foul. She got around on it.
And I talked to Rhonda Ravel, and she said, at first I didn't want to put Jordy in the leadoff spot because I'm saying you just got done off the mound. And she said, no, look, coach, I can do it. Sometimes I'm going to have to lead off an inning anyways. She is somebody who just wants to impact this game right away and set the tone.
Well, she is possibly in unique territory. I mentioned the 19 home runs. It's high and outside to Jordy Ball. If she can get to 20 home runs and 20 wins in the same season, she would just be the 4th player in NCAA history to reach both of those marks.
We are watching a generational talent, truthfully, the type of athlete that she is.
She's already got to that 20-win mark. She is 22-5 coming into this outing here today in the circle.
I was telling you before this game started, if the season were to end today, Jordy Ball would be the new average leader in Nebraska program history. And this is the first year she's ever started a full game in the lineup. I think that's the most amazing part.
Yeah, the conference and the nation is slowly getting to know. They've already known Jordy Ball as a pitcher, but is slowly getting to know her as a hitter this year. I love the story Rhonda Revelle had told last year when she tore her ACL. She was hitting off the tee with one leg in the bullpen. That's how she was just thirsting to get back. Ambia hitter, Jordy Ball cranks one foul. Man, the most beautiful foul ball that you might see here today. Wow.
We were both on our feet thinking we might have saw history in this situation. Jordy Ball got all of this one, turning on a rise ball inside. It did not miss the foul pole by much.
I love how Madison Seidel was like, no, that's foul, the catcher.
Long strike, long strike.
Right. Oh, the most impressive strike, like I said, you might see on the day. And Ball has worked her way to a full count now. Seidel says, hold your horses. And gets Ball to pop up to the right side. Chasing it down is the right fielder Brunson for the first out. It's a big out to get Ball out.
That's a huge deal and a great job by Volpe resetting after giving up what you might have got nervous was a home run. Using that to her advantage, understanding she sped her up with the rise ball inside. Well, now let's do effective velocity and go an off speed outside.
Sammy Bland is next up. The starting third baseman here for Nebraska. Yeah, that's got to add a lot of confidence here for Volpe. Now facing Bland here, number 2, another above 300 hitter in this lineup. In fact, 8 of the 9 hitters in this Nebraska lineup hit at least above 300.
One of the top batting average in the nation. On top of that, 14 different players have hit home runs, 13 with multiple ones.
Hard ground ball to the shortstop, Walters. And 2 up and 2 down. This Penn State defense so far have cleanly handled the first 2 batters. You know, if there is one area of consistency, they have had their fair share of defensive struggles, but no errors in that first round against Iowa yesterday as well.
And that's going to be huge from them by a team who pitches by committee. They're going to go through a bunch of different arms. They have a bit of higher ERA, so the ball's going to be put in play.
Ava Kuzak, mentioned she's a transfer from Wisconsin. A junior.
You mentioned she's a transfer. I think one thing that I loved is Coach Revelle said last weekend she felt like it was the first time that Ava has really got comfortable in a Nebraska uniform. And I think we talk about that as freshmen. You come in wanting to prove yourself. Well, that also can be true sometimes as transfers.
We're kind of like freshmen.
Exactly, and just wanting to remind everyone that you chose the right girl to come in and play for you.
Look, looking at that numbers, I think she settled in okay.
I think all season she settled in okay. She just had to believe it herself.
You're looking at the top 2 slugging percentages between Kuzak and Ball in Nebraska history. And that's saying something because Nebraska's had some lights-out hitters in their program history. And Kuzak draws the walk. So the first base runner here with 2 outs for the Cornhuskers.
I always say the sign of a tough team is when you can create any momentum after getting 2 outs, even drawing a walk, how that doesn't allow a defense to go a clean 3 up, 3 down and bring that momentum to hitting.
Olivia DiNardo is the next batter. Also a transfer, hard ground ball, the backhander to Walters, and an overthrow. There's some of the woes here by this Penn State defense trying to get the runner is safe. as Kuzak makes her way over to third base, trying to take that extra base, and it pays off.
And you could tell by Ava Kuzak's face, all that just went down. As this is a routine ground ball that's going to go to Walters. She's going to look to try to throw it to two. Throws a little bit to the left. Kuzak does a great job trying to take the extra 60 feet. The throw was there in time, but it comes down to, did Gordon get the tag on Kuzak? Misses it on the chest, hits the helmet, but I think Kuzak might have found it with her legs first.
Here's a really good angle on it. Ooh, wow.
That's a tough play, especially it's going to come down to, did that glove get her jersey in the chest? Because by the time it hit her helmet, it was too late.
I mean, Kuzak from that angle was blocking us in terms of watching the tag being made. You know, we saw Gordon kind of move, you know, in the motion of making the tag, but did she make contact is the question. And
you saw Coach Crowell ask Gordon, and she must have said no, she did not.
Big cut for Hannah Kamazin. And one more look at this, the play at third base.
And this is a tough one because an infielder, you're taught to tag low first and then bring it up high. It's a good job by Kuzak on the slide.
And they got runners at the corners. A wild pitch, and we're tied as Kuzak comes home and plates Nebraska's first run.
This backstop plays incredibly quick, and Kuzak almost looked like she had herself in trouble for a second, the way it bounced off quickly to Seidel, but a little bit of bobbling allows her to be in. But this is something to take note if you're a runner, how quickly it can come back, and a good job by Kuzak. Slight hesitation, and then she fully committed.
And so generate runs any way you can, and that's what the Huskers here are doing in the bottom half. And Kamazin is the next batter up in the 5 spot. And now with a runner in scoring position as DiNardo advanced over to second base.
We give a lot of love to Jordy Ball being a hitting pitcher. Hannah Kamazin, another perfect example of somebody who's worked so hard equally at the plate in her craft.
And walked her. We noticed that Jordy Ball threw 24 pitches, but Volpe's already at 22 here.
In the MVP in this situation to me is Ava Kuzak, who drew the walk with 2 outs when it looked like Volpe was rolling, getting ball out and then Bland. And now Nebraska does what they do best, creating a little bit of momentum. And if you give them an inch so often, they find a way to take a mile.
So an unearned run scored here to knot things up here at 1. Clarissa Crowell with a conversation. Interesting, too, that we've seen both head coaches have these mound meetings here in the first inning.
That goes to show how important each and every game here is in the Big Ten tournament. Both of these coaches understand that. They have a ton of respect for each other. It was neat. I watched them meet up before both teams went to warm up.
Clarissa Crowell in year number 5 as the Penn State head coach. Got her team to the regionals here last year. A high pop-up from behind home plate. It's the backstop netting, and it'll be 1 strike against Abby Squire.
What Coach Crowell has done to really rechange the narrative around Penn State softball. She's pitching by traits. That's her bread and butter, and she's had to go to work, especially this season when you lose Ace Bridget Namath, and now you're working by a staff committee, which Volpe's done a great job as a senior, stepping up in her last year and eating up a lot of innings.
And Namath was only able to play 1 game here this season. They're searching for consistency on the mound, but still having, with all the injuries they've had to deal with, you know, Penn State flirting with maybe a 500 overall record if they could pick up a win here today.
And it's a team that for the very first time, they have been known for their offense. It's something you haven't been able to say about the program as they've set records, home runs, RBIs.
Another wild pitch, and so both runners will advance to second and third here for the Huskers. And control issues now for Volpe.
And you can see Barbonette trying to give some extra love to Volpe in the circle, because right now that rise ball that she's been so consistent this tournament is missing high.
DiNardo to third, Kamazin to second base. And missing everything on that is Abby Squire. Count goes full.
if you're Squire, how can you stay within your zone? Understand that right now Volpe is a bit nibbling, especially within a rise ball at that height.
Volpe deals, and a hard-driven ball to right field. It goes off the wall. 2 runs will score from Nebraska. And Squire making her way over to third base. And a bases-clearing triple for Abby Squire.
Abby Squire goes in a long at-bat, and then she waits for the off-speed, perfectly timed, stays within her legs, able to go down and get it, and delivers a huge swing.
Second triple of the season for Squire. And that was actually the first hit for Nebraska here in this inning after all this chaos. You mentioned the walk and then the wild pitch and the air that has moved some of the Nebraska base runners around, but that's the first hit for the Huskers.
And that's been a bit of the Achilles heel for Penn State. The extra free bases lead to these big hits, especially by a Nebraska team who is, you leave extra outs on the field, they can capitalize on it.
Bella Bacon is your next batter. Another one of those hitters batting above 300, 330 for the season.
And for Bacon, that's her average throughout the season, but in Big Ten play, she's closer towards that 400 mark, somebody who has gotten comfortable within this lineup, understanding her RBI position.
Walked her. So now a couple of walks. All of this has happened with 2 outs, too, by the way.
It's always a hard decision if you're a coach, if you think, do I get somebody active in the bullpen? Do I try to pull her? But you're sitting on 2 outs, so you're saying, okay, 1 mistimed hit. That's all we need.
It's just a question of what happened to Penn State. They took care of the first 2 batters of this inning with no problem. And Bacon will trot over, scoot her way over, maybe a better description, over to second base.
A first and third play for Bacon. She's just trying to really read the defense, draw a run out if she needs to try to get the runner from third across. Or will take the stolen base if there's not a throw attempted.
The number 8 batter, Ava Breadwell. RBI opportunity here. She's got 20 of them on the season already.
And Breadwell is somebody, they just had their senior night last weekend. And she was Big Ten Freshman of the Year back in 2022. She has had more starts in the Nebraska uniform than anybody else on this 2025 roster.
And a strike call on the outside. Yeah, 2022 Big Ten Freshman of the Year, the all-freshman team. Time flies, now a senior. Walked her to load the bases. Things unraveling quickly here for Penn State. Oh, they're calling right back.
She was trying to plead her case.
There was only 3 balls to this at-bat. Had me sold. Christina Drum, no, she's like, that's only 3.
You love a pitcher when she knows her counts.
Well, you got to, right? So the full count. Drives one. Squire will score. Bacon will score. Nebraska plates another couple. And Breadwell picks up a couple RBI on that single with 2 outs. The Huskers keep rolling.
And if you're Breadwell, you're saying, well, thank you very much for calling me back so now I could drive in this hit. A great job pulling an inside pitch. This Nebraska team does so well at shooting the middle of the infield with line drives, and then 2 outs, runners are in motion. Bella Bacon never hesitating, rounding third base.
And now it's a 5-1 advantage in a blink of an eye. And we will have a pitching change. Things unraveling fast after picking up the first couple of outs in the inning.
into their own hands, the accountability, having their own team meetings, and understanding how good they could be.
I don't know if that's her lucky hoodie or sweatshirt, but I know Rhonda Revelle was wearing that last weekend against Maryland, and they took 3 from Maryland. And your new pitcher here is Hernandez.
And Hernandez is a great story. She's somebody who is a middle infielder by trade. She was actually competing for a starting job at second base when the injury bug came on the pitching staff, and Coach Crowell came to her and said, we need more arms in the bullpen. I need somebody who could be a drop ball pitcher. She pitched in high school and came back out of retirement for this year.
Always got to think hard when you're coming out of retirement, no matter what your age is, no matter what the job. All this coming again with 2 outs for this Husker offense.
And the thing about Hernandez is that Coach Crowell tends to bring her in against home run type of hitting squads because you add that drop ball layer and you're just hoping she could produce ground balls.
The 2-2 will do it again. Lauren Cammonson is a junior. And obviously the twin sister of Hannah. Nebraska knows twin sisters in this program really, really well. Here's the 2-2. Went chasing, and so Hernandez does her job. And after all that, Penn State gets out of the inning, but plenty of damage done by the Huskers.
Multiple home runs scored, and to be able to put up a 5 spot is going to leave confidence the ball coming back in the mound in the top of the second.
At photos of last weekend, look at this, over 7,929 total fans showed up for Nebraska against Maryland. They're celebrating, that's a program record for a 3-game series. They were celebrating 50 years of Nebraska softball last weekend, and all kinds of 100+ alums coming to take that in. Certainly an emotional weekend for everyone involved. Rhonda Revelle, her entire staff, I mean, has been at Nebraska forever. You know, ties have played at Nebraska, and the first sellout
on Saturday. Over 3,021 alumni, fans, families. What's this group of women on the field are cultivating, bringing back people from all ages as alumni. They're just so proud to wear the N, and it's really neat to see how much they share that together. And as you mentioned, everybody on this staff has also worn this uniform before, and there's a lot of pride as they continue to coach it.
Rhonda Revelle continues to be the play caller here for her pitcher, Jordy Ball, facing the 7, 8, and 9 hitters here for Penn State. Jordy Ball in that first inning threw 24 pitches, but certainly a different kind of mindset when now you've built a 4-run lead.
Just a freedom to attack. Still working through a bit of control, timing problems this start of the inning.
There's the first strike against Seidel.
And you mentioned Rhonda Revelle, the pitch caller. This is her first time calling pitches for every single person on this staff this year. So she's had to work extra hard learning what is Jordy Ball, Kylie McGee, Hannah Cammonsen's go-to pitch.
Which when someone has been in it as long as Rhonda Revelle, it's fascinating. Over 3 decades here of coaching, but in a leadoff walk handed out. So Ball hit a batter, Megan Ricks, to open things up at the top of the first, and now a free pass here to open things up at the top of the second.
It's a good timing for Rhonda Revelle. Just to talk through Jordy, what are you feeling? What pitches are you most comfortable with? So then she is setting herself up best by calling pitches for her. And she tends to give a lot of her pitchers a lot of freedom in saying, hey, if you want a pitch, just go for it. And then after the inning, tell me what it was. She calls them double headers, where she goes through every pitch with the pitcher after the game that she called and said, did you like that? Did you not like that?
Every single pitch?
Every single pitch.
I hope someone brings them lunch or dinner or something after.
Some good snacks.
Yeah. A very meticulous breakdown. Here's Jenna Nelson, the center fielder. So off to Seidel to open things up. And showing bunt, foul. Jenna Nelson's numbers here this year.
She's somebody who's grown a lot from last season, where she only had 13 at-bats to being trusted in a lot more of a starting role this year, 3 home runs, so a little bit of pop in her bat.
And again showing bunt. And another foul ball, so now 2 strikes against her.
I'm not surprised to see this now with 2 strikes. She'll have to open up and hit, but especially with Walters in the 9th spot, how well she's been turning up the order, finding her way on base quite a few times yesterday.
And the pitch is inside.
Where Penn State's doing a nice job is they're not chasing these pitches. That ball is missing outside of the zone.
This Penn State team, 26 sacrifice hits here this year. And Nelson now forced to swing away here with 2 strikes.
And around that 24, it comes from a handful of different players, even ones who are known more so as their power hitters, because they believe in this bigger idea of just playing small ball softball, moving over and playing the odds.
The 2-2 and the second strikeout for Ball.
Jordy Ball going to her rise ball, this time away on the outside corner. One of her most competitive heights she's thrown yet with this pitch.
Well, in steps Kaylee Walters, the Philly kid, playing for the state school.
I just love anytime everyone says it, because it just means you're tough, right?
That's
You're
right.
from Philly.
Everyone knows what that means. A Philly kid. Kaylee Walters batting in the 9th spot. And if you're wondering, yes, she's an Eagles fan.
Wears it, and whenever she's not wearing Penn State gear.
She could wear both. Foul ball trickling down the third baseline. You know, you could go all Penn State up top and then Eagles below the waist if you want.
Especially with some Super Bowl attire.
That's
Plenty
right.
to choose from now.
Yeah. She is a base stealing threat if she can get on base here with 1 out for Penn State. After taking the lead, they're now playing behind here in the top of the 2nd. They plated that run in the 1st inning against Jordy Ball. They didn't waste any time.
And Ball's somebody who's always getting better. It feels like the more and deeper she gets into games.
This is outstanding for Penn State. The first Big Ten team to record an earned run against Jordy Ball in the 1st inning. And swinging away. And strikeout number 2, and now Ball's starting to heat up a little bit in the circle.
That first run has just given her extra motivation as she has found her timing within her rise ball. When she can spin it that well, the late break is so hard to lay off of. Especially as Walter's running through the box. You're having to hit that ball even more out front.
Her 2nd strikeout here of the inning, her 3rd of the game. And trying to work it here at the top of the order, Megan Ricks.
Ricks is somebody she was trying to establish the inside corner. Got a little bit away from her to start this game.
Catch that outside. Good frame job, too, by Breadwell.
Breadwell is such a veteran behind the plate. She's worked extra hard to make sure that she understands all of these pitchers, especially Ball, and how to get around that with her thumb.
Or bring it across.
Umpire's like, I see you trying to sell it.
That's right. Ow! Ball is suddenly pulling. Ends the inning with 3 straight strikeouts.
This is what makes Jordy Ball so dangerous. When you allow her back in a game, she is going to show you what she is made of. Her rise ball working on every height.
In and out of that building, Sydney Supley. And that is a hat by that Nebraska fan as well.
One thing about Nebraska is they've traveled well all season long. So I'm at the Mary Nudger Collegiate Classic, where it felt like they had 100 fans come out to California.
Well, Purdue's so famous for its engineering school, we know that. And but their softball team, you know, putting themselves in the headlines after last night's upset win against Northwestern.
Everyone I've talked to this tournament just commends what a host school this has been. This entire stadium that's pretty newly redone.
Of course, us broadcasters evaluate it by the press box, right? Because we're selfish like that. But everything is beautiful, from the press box to the layout here on the field. You can see some fans out in center field and right field who yesterday took in those 4 games. There we are. You can see us. And a leadoff walk here to Jordy Ball, who flew out in her first time up and draws the walk now against Hernandez, a different pitcher. In this facility, you know, I said yesterday, I remember, you know, the old field, you know, the press box was actually on the third baseline, and we were tucked in like sardines over there.
You had to go through a gravel road just to get up to the field.
That kind of sets the stage, right?
Yes.
Whenever you have to drive up to it with a gravel road leading the way. Well, things have changed in modern facilities for both the baseball and softball programs here at Purdue. Here's Sammy Bland. She grounded out in the first time up. Actually, all of these runs, 6 total, have happened with 2 outs for Penn State and Nebraska. Well, both of these teams really rallying in the first to generate some runs with their backs against the wall.
It's going to be important now when you go from a pitcher who's going to change the eye level. They had to establish a ceiling against a rise ball pitcher, and now as a drop ball, establish a basement. That's one thing Nebraska hitters do really well. They find a checkpoint within their body. They tell themselves, okay, if it's the knee, I'm not swinging at a ball that's below my knee.
And chasing that one in the second strikeout for Hernandez.
Because the exit velocity is a little bit lower, however, her spin will speed you up, and you feel like you can get around this drop ball, but it's so beautifully painted on the outside quarter. Bland just pulls off enough.
The number 3 hitter, Ava Kuzak. And she drew a walk, and you said maybe the most important batter in the first inning for Nebraska. She did it with 2 outs.
And to keep that inning alive, that's something this team does so well, of just passing the bats, never feeling like one person has to be the hero.
The contrast between Hernandez and Volpe, do you feel like that's why Hernandez was chosen to come into this situation?
Absolutely. That's one thing when they know they have to come into a game, usually using 2 or 3 arms, they try to make all of them very differently. So Hernandez is going to go for a middle spot. She never throws over 2 to 3 innings, so they're also setting up with a situation to come in for a closer, most likely Spalding.
Hernandez with her 20th appearance here of the season. She's been used the 4th most on this pitching staff. And she deals another swinging strike.
That drop ball in the outer half for Nebraska is have to find a way to keep their front shoulder in just enough before opening up on the swing.
All these batters facing Hernandez for the first time. She came in for the number 9 hitter in the first inning. That ball is foul.
And we have to remember, even though they're Big Ten opponents, these 2 programs haven't played each other this year. So this is Nebraska's first time scouting against Hernandez, as when they played last year, she wasn't even an option on the pitching staff.
The 2-2 to Kuzak. Outside. Did you have a preference as a player? Did you like a fourth meeting against a team, or did you like kind of a clean slate against an opponent in the postseason?
I was always a clean slate type of person. I love the element of surprise. You're getting everybody's best stuff the first time. Although the chess matches are also fun.
Walks her. And so a couple of walks deal free passes here to Ball and now Kuzak. And two of the first three batters here in the second, the bottom part of the second inning.
And right now for Hernandez, it's just trusting your spin through the zone, understanding you have a defense behind you. She has 2 strikeouts, but striking out is not her MO. How can you produce weak ground balls?
Yeah, just 9 coming into this outing, just 9 strikeouts for the season for Hernandez. A hard ground ball through the infield, and Ball will come around to score the 6th run here for Nebraska. Good contact by DiNardo.
DiNardo, understanding she was going to get something down in the zone, delivers her barrels. That one's a little bit elevated, quite frankly, but pulls on it just hard enough to get outstretched hands of Barbonete. What this Nebraska team does really well is running the bases. Any single time they see the ball through the infield, they are always hunting for that extra 60 feet.
Now running at first base for Nebraska, 15, Kennedy Williams.
And Kennedy Williams, now your pinch runner for DiNardo at first base.
And the batter, right fielder, number 9, Hannah Kamazin.
Hannah Kamazin, who drew a walk in her first time up. Now this Nebraska lineup batted through the order in the first inning, so the second at bat in the second inning here for all of these Nebraska hitters.
And if you're a lefty, you love being up in this situation. You can see Kamazin up tight against the plate. All she needs to do is try to look to send something towards the right side of the field.
Kamazin, a fly ball to left field, runner tags. And Kuzak scores, and it's a 7-1 ball game.
Kamazin doing such a nice job hitting, attacking the drop ball low in the zone, extending her barrel through the bat, and then Kuzak staying firmly planted on third base. That's how the catch is made. Not even a throw attempt. That's what this Nebraska team does so well. They push towards that 8-9 run rule mark every single game they play in.
The 36th RBI for Hannah Kamazin. And a perfectly executed sac fly to plate Nebraska's 7th run of the ball game. Here's Abby Squire, had one of the 2 hits in the first inning for Nebraska. A 2 RBI triple. Crushed it against Maddie Volpe, the Penn State starter. And her first at-bat facing Hernandez. The runner goes diving head first is Williams, who's safe at second base.
And what's so special for Rhonda Ravel is she can work through a lineup that has so many different options with Squire. Just taking another look at the way that they push themselves on the base pass, as Walters did a great job even trying to catch it. But I think they're going to question here the timing on if the runner left early at first base is what's under review.
The previous play is under further review.
Yeah, well, she's clearly safe at second, so that'd be the only question. Boy, we saw a left early crucial play in our final game yesterday between Northwestern and Purdue. It wiped away a Wildcat run.
Bridget Donahue on the base passes. Avery Garden with what would have been a 2-scoring double in a game that ended losing by 1 run. And those are those hard moments, because as a runner, you're taught to, how can you get as close to leaving just a little bit early? And this is a great shot. The runner could not leave until the ball is released by the pitcher's hands.
Boy, that is close.
I mean, that's about as close as you could get. And it looks like Bland's left foot.
Like, is her toe still on the bag?
I know.
It kind of looks like it.
Like the shadow of her is what's helping her right now.
Right. Wow.
And before this rule, quite frankly, the motto I was always taught, if you left on time, you were late. You have to leave early, but now with official review being a part of our game, every single one of these programs in the conference, so 17 home stadiums had official review. You do it in these situations because why not?
And you certainly have, I mean, you know, the first base is right by the Penn State dugout, too. And you certainly have, you know, people on staff who are keeping an eye on that. Here's the decision. Okay, so the call is upheld and the call stands. That is Christina Drum, our home plate umpire here for this first game. So Rhonda Ravel relieving some of that stress and stretching out there on the third base side.
And that's a great job by Williams, because you come into this game for DiNardo as a pinch runner, you're just trying to make a splash and to have that poise to stay on time.
So Squire steps in. Remember, Williams now the pinch runner. They're at second base. And Squire puts it in the air. Two Penn State defenders there. And it is Brunson who makes the play and calls off second baseman Barbamente. Nebraska ahead 7-1. Coming up, the 2025 Big Ten softball tournament quarterfinals continue. Indiana has arrived. They'll take on the number 2 seed. UCLA is here too. The Bruins making their Big Ten tournament debut only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And the bracket we mentioned at the beginning. History yesterday in the first round. The Big Ten tournament has never seen the 10, 11, and 12 seeds all win in the same year. And we saw Penn State, Indiana, and Purdue in the last game advance into today's quarterfinals. What are you looking forward to with this matchup, Indiana and UCLA?
The Hoosiers bats, how prolific they are, some of the best in the nation against UCLA's pitching staff that is so deep. To me, that's one of the matchups of the tournaments that I was looking forward towards the potential of seeing that. But we've also been talking about how competitive this conference has been all season long. To see it at its top form yesterday just goes to show.
All kinds of history making here in this Big Ten tournament. Arguably maybe the deepest 1 through 12 that we have seen in the softball tournament history. Maddie Gordon grounded out in her first time up. Was one of the first out in the first inning, and Penn State had gotten to a couple of outs before they were able to score their first run in the first inning, their only run here of the game. That pitch getting away a little bit. 1-2 now the count.
And Gordon had a few really quality at-bats yesterday against the win over Iowa. Somebody with her leadership as the senior. She has paid her dues in this program. Didn't start much her freshman year. A few more opportunities her sophomore year, but then her breakout junior campaign last season.
And Gordon fighting off that pitch. Yeah, she was one of the many batters here for Penn State in that first round who picked up at least one hit. Also generated a walk against Iowa. Eight batters for Penn State, responsible for the 12 hits yesterday against the Hawkeyes. Heads up. Clarissa Clarell's got to be on her A game over there at first base.
Especially with the speed of Jordy Ball, who's right now touching that drop ball close towards 70. These hitters are just a little bit late since she has found a way to pound the zone.
The 1-2 to Gordon, who just floats it to the second baseman, Kamazin.
And this is when Ball has all the tools within her toolbox, so it can get really creative. You saw her go outside and then back in tight inside. She can throw the same pitch, but going from out to in is going to create an effective velocity that's going to work in on the hands of Gordon and just speed her up enough to not get it on the barrel.
Well, so far, Jordy Ball's third inning looking a lot like her second inning. She only worked with 4 total batters in the second inning. Now, Clausewitz grounded out in her first time up in the first, but it was a first inning went through 6 hitters for Penn State against Ball.
You're seeing just sprayed a little bit late on all of these righty hitters especially. They can find a way to track that ball and try to get it about a ball to 2 balls deeper out front.
Two strikes against Clausewitz. And she flies out to right field. And so a couple of fly ball outs, one to Kamazin in right field. The Kamazin sisters actually taking care of the first 2 outs at second base and right field.
Sharing the love, everybody trying to help Jordy Ball out. But it says so much about her, the type of competitor and workhorse that she is. Doesn't have a clean first inning, resets mentally, and has come out so strong within the last 2.
Ground ball right back to Ball, who fields her position. And the first 1-2-3 inning for Nebraska. I don't know if nerves, excitement, whatever word you want to use, but it's the debut for Jordy Ball here in the Big Ten tournament.
And she's human, because you look at her numbers, we forget that she is human. And that's one thing about this team. When they're having joy, you see the play animal cows in the background. This is a group that thrives, and Rhonda said it herself, when they're having fun. That's when the game comes easy to them. And for Jordy Ball to have been able to take a step back and remember, okay, the game's the same. It's 43 feet from the mound to home plate.
Her first plate appearance, she drew a walk and scored a run in that 5-run first inning. And she pops it up in the infield, and tracking it is Gordon for the first out. And we have yet our third pitcher here for Penn State, Abigail Britton, in her 42nd appearance.
She was a part of the masterful appearance yesterday. She came in on the backhand of Maddie Volpe, and they really like going Hernandez to her because she's somebody who's gonna work a little bit more east to west. You see curveball, screwball, can spin it up. That's why throwing that drop ball does just enough to separate how similar her and Volpe are.
Oh, her 5 saves, you saw that graphic. And a ground ball through the 5-6 hole for Ava Bradwell. You know, Britton is no stranger to coming into relief, but she gives up the hit here.
For Bradwell to come in, a new pitcher, be right on time immediately. And the thing about throwing east to west, if your barrel's on plane, you can hit either one.
And now it's the number 9 hitter, Lauren Kamazin, who faces her second pitcher, Hernandez, in the bottom of the first. And now Britton here in the bottom of the third.
For these Nebraska hitters who have already faced 3 different arms, to credit to them, getting into the bullpen early against Penn State. Also, they've had to get on time to so many different people.
And if this is your first time watching Nebraska softball, yeah, Lauren and Hannah are twins. They had been to several camps growing up at Nebraska, and a connection with some of the Nebraska players at a deep, deep level, and not just the program. So you can imagine how much it means for them to be Huskers. Ground ball to the third baseman, Gordon, who gets 1 at second base. The stretch is there. Hits a double play for Penn State.
For Nebraska in the bottom of the third, no runs, 1 hit.
A solid defensive performance that time by the Nittany Lions to get out of the inning.
This time, the defense stepping up behind Britton, showing off their arm, flashing their leather, bringing some momentum.
Jordy Ball at the plate in the circle. Some of the program milestones that she set here in year number 1 as a Cornhusker.
What I love about it is she doesn't know her numbers, nor does she want to know. She has repeatedly said the only one that matters to her is the W, but it's impossible to ignore the type of impact she has had on this program already in officially year one of her playing. But the joy that she plays and being able to represent her home state. You look at an athlete who has the biggest awards this game has. Women's College World Series MVP. She's had 2 national championships, and she chose to come home to bring this Husker program back to its top form.
A Papillion, Nebraska native. I mean, it lit the softball world on fire when she made that decision. Now, Rhonda Revelle and this coaching staff, you know, with her being a Nebraska native, obviously has had a connection and has known her for a long, long time. And ball facing on Michaela Barbonente.
But that's what's special. If you look at this lineup, there's 10 different Nebraska natives. And so many came from the portal. So not only did they recruit talent, but they recruited people who are from Nebraska to come back home.
Barbonente goes upstairs and misses everything. And another strikeout here for Ball. 5 on the day.
The ball is masterful when she's able to attack the zone early to get you to bend it up. She could get you to bend it down and even a little bit sideways.
Five strikeouts, the first one actually coming to this batter, Natalie Lido, in the first inning to end the inning. Lido, though, a good batting average today in the number 6 spot at .331 for the season. And not the way that she wanted to place that bunt, right to Bella Bacon, the first baseman.
It was actually read very well because Bacon was playing in a one back, so she was behind the base, and you knew she wouldn't have charged. However, because ball throws so hard, it ricocheted off her bunt. It almost felt just as hard as a hit.
It was almost like a pregame warm-up there for Bacon at first base. So 2 up and 2 down. Remember, in the 3rd inning was the first time that Ball had been able to retire the side here for Penn State. And it's interesting just to see her growth, you know, inning to inning, facing 6 batters in the first inning, 4 batters in the second, you know, just 3 batters in the 3rd, and taking care of the first 2 batters here in the 4th. Madison Seidel is your batter for Penn State. And a 1-1 count.
And you can tell that Ball has found her timing. She's somebody who her first 3 pitches before an inning, she just works on timing. She doesn't work on spin. She doesn't work on velocity. And she has honed that in. I still think it's impressive every time you see that C on her chest. Even coming in as a transfer, she was voted immediately as a captain of this program.
The 2-1. There's some speed coming at her. You know, that's why, you know, Jordy Ball is labeled by some as a generational talent here in the softball world. Not only a leader, you mentioned the captain in the C on her jersey, but just must-see softball, right? People tune in on the TV. They want to show up in the stands to watch a player like this. And she changes speeds, and another strikeout. 6 strikeouts on the day for Jordy Ball.
Ball's off speed is so devastating because she can tunnel it off her other pitches. When she pulls the string, it's hard to lay off.
I love talking to all the different coaches, but you know, she is certainly a delight in bringing the positivity, and the head coach has to set the stage, right, and set the tone with something like that.
She means it when she says she still bets on her team every time, and I think her players feel that.
This is an 11 seed, you know, getting all the way here to the quarterfinals and beating Iowa in the first round. And Jordy Ball's 3rd at-bat. Flew out in the first inning, walked in the second. It's the top of the lineup. facing Britain.
I think one thing that's really neat about this Nebraska squad, if you kind of look at their schedule, they love to practice and prepare. And so for them this week, they have chose to only play 2 midweeks all season because they love getting in the film room, especially against a staff like this, and having extra time to practice before they compete.
Yeah, that's certainly unusual. You see coaches are trying to get games in as ball. It goes off the glove of Corbin. And ball is safe at first. A line shot there to the third baseman. Maddie Gordon couldn't handle it.
Ball doing a nice job getting on top of this ball, scorching a line drive. Walters makes a really nice backhand to throw a little bit off the line, and you see ball will go, oop, don't let me step over and let me come fair. Because after you run through first base, you have to stay so careful in terms of where you turn.
This is Bland letting down the bunts, and another error here by this Penn State defense, a throwing error. And everybody's safe here for Nebraska. Bland to second and ball to third.
Nebraska will speed you up every time they can get. Dropping down the bunt on the very next pitch. Britton takes it herself. Was caught between, should I shovel it under? Do I go overhand? The indecisiveness kills. This is a team that will run on you as soon as they see the ball gets past any defender.
And a couple of errors by this Penn State defense here already. It proved costly. You know, earlier in this game in the first inning for Nebraska. And the Huskers already with a 6-run advantage in the bottom of the fourth. If they could plate a couple runs, would get themselves into another run rule situation.
Which we know they're quite familiar with. They've done it 22 times this season. That's another record they have broken this year.
Great situation for this hitter, Ava Kuzak, in the 3 spot. The shortstop, she's walked a couple of times, but over 50 runs, over 60 hits, and over 55 RBI on the season. This is the hitter that you want at the plate when you've got 2 in scoring position.
Penn State knows that. That's why they're so tight defensively, wanting to eliminate any of her power and being able to sneak it through the infield. Especially these last few weeks, Kuzak has found a way to take the pressure off her back and really get back to her swing.
And draws another walk. She's so good at that. The most walks on the team. And Kuzak has drawn 3 of them here today. Speaking of walks, they don't even appear on this graphic for Kuzak. But she is that good at that. But Jordy Ball and Kuzak have been quite the 1-2 punch.
My favorite part of this storyline are these are 2 teammates who've been reunited here at Nebraska. They played together in travel ball back in Colorado. It was a huge part of getting Kuzak in the portal, as she got to play with one of her old best friends, Jordy Ball.
Never burn bridges as coaches and never burn bridges as teammates, right? In travel ball even.
Exactly.
In the year and the era of the transfer portal, everyone's got to keep that positive connection. Bases are loaded here for DiNardo. Already has an RBI.
And the trio of who played together in travel ball was DiNardo was one of them, which is so fun.
And fouls it back. This is where you try not to, as a hitter, try to not get too juiced up, right? With the bases loaded.
Especially as DiNardo, somebody who swung the bat well earlier today with a huge hit towards right field.
And strikes her out. What a pitch there by Britton.
This is when you let your want get out of your way and expanding your zone. Britton takes full advantage, throwing a rise ball at a very good height to get DiNardo to go chase him.
Hannah Kamazin Swings at the first pitch. Camison has what I call being a good teammate sort of game here so far. She drew the walk in the first inning, the sac fly in her second time up. And now, though, an RBI opportunity here. Checks her swing. And she went all the way around. And so 2 strikes against her.
And Britton is starting to get success in that rise ball against them for Nebraska to be able to reset and now go back to establishing a ceiling.
She was chasing that on the outside. Barely got like the end of the bat on it.
This Nebraska team, sometimes because they're such good hitters, they feel like they can hit everything, and that can lead to their weaknesses at times. Even though you might be able to put a bat on everything, you have to go back to being disciplined and attacking one speed and one pitch at a time.
Yeah, and a home run is not needed in this kind of situation. Just get barrel to ball. Right there, a hard hit ground ball. They go to home, and ball is thrown out there at home plate, and now 2 away. So Penn State alertly gets the lead runner and prevents the run, and now 2 outs.
And Britton doing a nice job leveling up her game, trusting her defense. Barbonente firing home. I don't know if I would have made this second throw. However, Ricks does a really nice job trapping it and allowing for a ball in the dirt to get by.
Spice it up a little bit.
Take your chances. That's why you're in the tournament.
That's right.
But for Nebraska, if Penn State can get out of this, this is back-to-back zeros they put up on the scoreboard after a big first 2 innings.
And those are the battles that Penn State's got to build off of, especially with the bases loaded. This is by far the best opportunity here, the setup opportunity here for this Nebraska offense, and a Squire player who's a hitter who's already gotten a couple RBI and a triple in the first inning.
What I love about her is when she's put into the lineup, she makes sure the defense feels her. She's somebody who has power, but also speed, as you can see how quickly she got around those bases.
Her second triple in the last 3 games.
Triples are so hard to hit, in my opinion.
She jumps ahead here. 2 balls, no strikes.
I'm sure one of the conversations Coach Ravel had with Squire is, hey, find your zone, hit your pitches.
Well, interesting, when the bases have been loaded, it's like everything is stalled a little bit here for Nebraska.
Not just wanting to do too much in those situations. You want to be the person who gets the huge hit, the big RBI, and how often you have to just think about passing the bat.
The 2-1. 3 balls, 1 strike.
Now if you're Britton, there's nowhere to go except finding a way to throw a strike.
Off speed look. In for a strike. Count goes full.
To be able to trust your changeup in a 3-1 bases loaded situation, you have to have a lot of guts.
Does she throw it again on a full count? That's the big question. Ground ball to the shortstop, and the out is made at second base. So Penn State, like you had said, Sydney, holds Nebraska scoreless in the bottom of the 3rd and the bottom of the 4th. Certainly some notables, you know, the double-digit seeds. That hadn't happened. The 10, 11, and 12 seed all winning in the same tournament on the same day. That's pretty remarkable. And you see the 11 seed Penn State here trailing Nebraska, but getting out of a huge jam there defensively. Getting out of the bases loaded jam, and now going back to work here in the top of the 5th, and more importantly, avoiding a run rule situation here in the top of the 5th.
And that's where the momentum you create defensively has to pour into the offense now. And a shout out to Abigail Britton coming in and slamming the door But Nebraska could have easily let this get out of hand.
Now, Paletti is your pinch hitter for Penn State. Gianna Paletti. Another strikeout victim, though, against Jordy Ball. Ball now with 7 strikeouts.
And she's a little extra fired up at how well this drop ball is thrown, falling off the table. Just the ultimate competitor, the way that she reacts.
And a showing punt. This is Kaylee Walters against Jordy Ball today. First inning is one to forget, but she's had 6 strikeouts since that first inning and has struck out 6 of the last 11 batters.
And when she wants to really turn up the dial and focus in, that's what she can do. It was just a bit of timing as well in the first inning. It was a credit to Penn State to stepping in the box and being ready against her early. However, since then, she's found a way to attack the zone early and get them to expand.
Yeah, K's across the board since that second inning. And another one, this one looking back-to-back strikeouts.
And this is when between the ears is what can beat you, as Walters has seen her go up, down, and this time caught frozen. A bit of a screwball right on the corner.
Jordy Ball threw the 24 pitches in that first inning. They have her for 18 in the second, 10 in the third, and 10 in the fourth, and making quick work once again here in the fifth.
That stuff matters because as quickly as you can get your hitters back in the dugout and have less time on defense, gets everyone more connected within their swings and their game plan at the plate.
And she was swinging. I feel like after that release was happening.
It almost felt like a gas swing in a way, which Jordy Ball can get you to do that because the balls come through on the same level until the last second.
Barely got a piece of that, but hanging in there.
This coaching staff has always said Jordy Ball can be as good as Jordy Ball wants to be. She has a way of digging deeper, stepping up in these type of moments. When the lights get bright, she's on the biggest stage.
The 0-2 deal from Paul. Wow, that was close.
That's a really quality pitch, especially with 2 strikes. You don't want to give anything too good, and this one just a knee buckler, and that's a really tough take by Ricks.
Yeah, with 2 strikes. Corner looking, strikes out the side, and 9 Ks for Jordy Ball in her Big Ten tournament debut.
Jordy Ball now looking in her postseason prime, the first time we've seen her since 2023, picking up right where she left off. Exactly how we trained.
Our producer, Kevin Klein, since we're talking about football, showing a football stadium, has said that Nebraska's put up a touchdown now, right? Leading 7-1. Danny Douglas, our director, Sydney Supley, and Lisa Byington with you, and the rest of our wonderful Big Ten Network staff, some of the people here on site getting here early for the last few days and working 4 games yesterday, working 4 games here again today. Here's Bella Bacon. And she drives one to right field and couldn't corral it. And Brunson there in right field. It was in the glove and then popped out.
A nice job by Bacon, this time going opposite field. And doesn't hesitate, even though there's an opportunity for Clausewitz maybe to snag this. She does a nice job continuing to round first base and then is standing on 2, which will lead to a pinch runner and another opportunity for the Huskers with a runner in scoring position.
Here is Attention, please. Now running at second base for Nebraska, 66, Caitlin Caneda.
Caitlin Caneda is now your pinch runner for Nebraska. And they will give Bacon the leadoff double. Driving into center field. The catch can't be made. It's off the wall. And Caneda coming around home, and Nebraska now has a +7 advantage on the scoreboard.
For Caneda to come in this at-bat, it's the dugout, the hitters that can come in that sometimes make the biggest difference for Nebraska. Finds a way to be on time, deliver her barrel, and Brunson having to go all the way to the wall. It's a good job running in this situation. And a big hit opportunity for Bradwell, who has delivered so much at that 8th spot in the lineup. That's what's deadliest about this Nebraska team. 1 through 9, or even coming off the bench, they can put up a punch.
And now it is dangerous territory. If Penn State gives up one more run, and Nebraska wins in the run rule. And back-to-back doubles have set this up. First by Bacon, the latest by Bradwell. Lauren Kamendsen at the plate. Remember, Nebraska had loaded the bases in the previous inning, wasn't able to set up the run rule in that situation. The 201st extra base hit this year here for Nebraska, and a pinch runner.
Your attention, please. Now running at second base for Nebraska, 00 McKinley Maleka.
And it'll be McKinley Maleka pinch running, and possibly in representing the run rule, possible run and possible victory here for Nebraska at the bottom of the 5th. Swinging at the first pitch, Kamendsen, a fly ball into foul territory, and then just gets knocked to the ground.
We have 2 players down right now. You saw Kamendsen rounding first base, got a little bit tied up.
That's Paletti at first base there for Penn State, and it looks like both players are okay. Both of them at least have hopped up after this.
And as a first baseman, you have to be aware of, even though the ball is in foul territory, that a runner is rounding hard and they're not looking at you, they're just hunting for the next base. That's a hard bang-bang play. But a great effort nonetheless that we saw by Barbonente, hustling all the way to left field. She understands what this moment means and what this out could have meant as well.
Defensively for the Nittany Lions, returning to
some good sportsmanship as well, making sure the other okay. Always the utmost important thing. And these are 2 programs who have a lot of respect for one another.
Yeah, obviously unintentional. Both kind of looking in different directions, and just an unfortunate thing, but good to see. It looks like both are okay. And Brunson has rotated back to right field. They're keeping me hopping over there between Clausewitz and Brunson.
They are, and that's somebody, as a program, Clarissa Crowell, what she does is playing the odds and understanding the matchups and where she feels she wants to position her best outfielders in certain situations.
Got Nelson in center field. How's your scorecard look, Sydney?
A lot of Penn, which yours does as well.
Lauren Kamendsen back at the plate. It's been a while since we've seen a pitch here with all this action going on. Foul ball, some substitutions made. And Nelson really playing kind of shallow in that center field position. Outfield's got to be alert and on their high horse, right, to try to prevent a 9th run and what would be a game-winning run for Nebraska for the run rule.
And that's why you saw the substitution in right field, just making sure your quickest legs and your best arms are in the outfield to try to prevent anything.
2-2 the count on Kamazin. And Maleka sitting at second base as the pinch runner.
What I really like is after the collision, Kamazin has done a nice job settling into this count, really seeing a lot of pitches to work to be on time.
Hard grounder to the shortstop, looks back the runner Maleka and gets the out at first base for the first out of the inning.
Walters has done a clean job besides one errant throw today at shortstop, showing off a lot of range as she handles those hard hits with such ease. It feels like every time we blink today, Jordy Ball has been up to the
I wonder if Penn State feels the same way. Well, certainly in some key situations, she's got a single, a walk, she's scored a run here already, and a chance to possibly end the game for Nebraska.
Coach Ravel saying Ball is as good at both sides of the plate because she's able to compartmentalize what she does on the mound and then what she can do at the plate, and clearly earning a lot of respect as now Penn State is signaling up to intentionally walk, which in this game you have to throw 4 straight balls to do so.
You agree with this situation?
I think it's a tip your cap to Jordy Ball, and so far they've been successful against Bland right behind her with 2 strikeouts on the day.
All right, so still 1 out though for Nebraska. It'll be up to Sammy Bland, the third baseman. 0 for 2 here today. And her second time facing Britain. Fouls it back.
And if you're Bland, you have to take this with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder of say, hey, you want to face me? Well, now let me pay for you. Pay for it. And for her, she's just been a little bit exposed on the outer half. See, she's a little bit tighter to the plate.
I mean, few people want to serve up to Jordy Ball, but when you think about this lineup, I mean, I'm looking Bland, and she's got 40 RBI to her name. So take your pick with these Nebraska hitters, who you want to go against.
Then you walk Ball and you get Kuzak, who's on deck, potentially.
That one getting away from Britain a little bit. It's high. And Seidel handling it behind home plate. 1-2 now the count. Bland ground ball. The play's made at third base by Gordon, and now 2 away. Could Nebraska in back-to-back innings with runners in scoring position not be able to end this game?
You're seeing them really expand their zone. But the hustle by Bland, she didn't know if this was going to be fired across the diamond by Gordon. Just wanted to make sure she was not the last out of the inning.
And here is the situation that you talked about with Kuzak at the plate. She's drawn 3 walks here today in her first 3 appearances. Hasn't seen a whole lot to deal with on the afternoon.
And sometimes that can be really hard. You haven't been able to lift the bat off your shoulder much and get your timing.
She's trying to extend this here today. Hard to do when you're not seeing a lot of pitches.
But then you have a pitcher come in and start firing the zone, and you've been used to them nibbling all day. And one thing about Britain is she's trying to work these Nebraska hitters very quickly. You see, she doesn't take a lot of time. She steps back on the mound, forces these hitters to get in the box where she's already set and ready.
Ground ball through the infield. Ball is being sent home for the possible win. And Nebraska walks it off in the run roll and is off to the tournament semifinals, winning 9-1 against Penn State.
their 23rd run rule of this season, coming by none other than Ava Kuzak, who has been lights out these last few weeks. But you have to look at Jordy Ball, what she did at the plate, and most importantly, what she has done on the mound. 5 complete innings on top of 9 strikeout performance.
One last look at the Kuzak hit to end it.
Just enough up the middle. Not trying to do too much, but the thing with 2 outs is you have your runners in motion and Ball with so much speed.
And Nebraska celebrating 39 wins here on the season and getting to the Big Ten tournament semis. We'll wrap it up after this.